Currently, there are threats to ban drag in Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and Montana. Fortunately, there are temporary bans on those, but it doesn't mean that the laws aren't written down and can be enacted on whenever feels convenient to whoever's enforcing them. Drag should not be banned. I've watched a lot of drag and I've been a big fan for like majority of my life. So drag shouldn't be banned also because it's deep-rooted in queer history. It's an art form that anyone can present in. It's like a very big misconception that only gay men can, because there's drag kings, which came around in like the 1900s. There's drag for anyone. Anyone can be a drag queen, be a drag king, and it doesn't even have to be like the binary settings of gender. And it inspires self-love and provides community for people who have maybe never felt that before. First of all, it's deep-rooted in the queer community. Drag has existed since 400 BC, because we cannot forget about the cross-dressing on stages way back in Roman times. That's from the art of drag. Drag is essentially a campy, over-the-top, glamorous alter ego that someone puts on. In New York's Harlem in the 1860s, it's thought to be the birthplace of drag, where Black, queer, and trans residents don dresses and wigs to perform in a safe, creative environment. Which is like huge for the time, because who was in the pre-Edwardian era dressing up in extravagant gowns as a cis man, and the only really option to be in that time. It also played a huge role in gay liberation in the 1960s. Queens stood up for everyone in the queer community, even whenever the queer community did not stand with them. Because although that they provided so much support with the Stonewall riots, every bar getting raided in that time, a lot of the time queer men and queer women would want to distance themselves from drag queens or transgender people, because it was just not, it wasn't the time to acknowledge that in the public eye. Obviously our queens, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, started STAR, which is, it was basically a protection group for trans youth at the time. A lot of drag queens also stood up against the AIDS crisis and did their part, donated money, did fundraising, and the GFL, which is the Gay Liberation, or the GLF, which was the Gay Liberation Front, which many drag queens considered themselves to be part of, especially in New York and places surrounding it. And I got that information from Stonewall, the riots that sparked the gay revolution. Next, art and self-expression. Drag is such a wide scope that you can present anything with it. You can do acting, you can sing, you can do a dance, you can present your fashion in ways that no one has expressed fashion yet. You can do puppet shows. You can literally do anything, and it's drag. Drag is more than a man wearing a woman's clothes or vice versa. In the 1980s to 90s, there was an uprise in club kids who started to identify with the term genderfuck, which would basically just throw out all gender norms, and completely deliberately just wearing whatever they wanted and combining parts of fashion that were masculine and feminine. I got that from the art of drag. And becoming a character and loving it. So now I'm going to show you this video of RuPaul on a talk show in 1993, like right whenever his fame started to jump off. Please play.
So now that you come through the damn roof, okay. You know, we should go back to the beginning, because there are a lot of people watching who are like, we should just explain some things, how the idea came about. I'm sure there's some people who would like the question answered. Would you have rather been born a woman?
No, I'm very happy with being a big old black man. But you it's just. It's just a lot of, I'm an entertainer, and, I've done lots of different personas. But this one, baby, this one clicks. The children respond to me in drag, okay?
That was basically just meant to show how being in drag and being a character can really elevate someone's self-confidence and really give them the boost that they need, because RuPaul is really the first, publicized example of queer success in the entertainment industry that isn't just local. Even though Ru does some questionable things, we do have to thank her for everything that she has done for the queer community and the drag community. Finally, but most importantly, self-love and acceptance. You can show yourself that you are beautiful, that you can do things that you never thought that you could. It's really just about stepping out of your shell and not being afraid of the things that you did that night being attached to you or who you are as an individual. Community, in the documentary Paris is Burning, Pepper LaBeija says, "It's important for me to be a mother because there's so many little kids to look out for." In that, she also talked about how kids would go down to the piers, and the piers is how a lot of queer youth used to make their money in the 80s. And they would, the kids would have nothing, but they would go somewhere and they would steal something, or they would steal something from someone, and they would go to the clubs and they would be themselves and they would be free. And with drag houses, which is what I really want to touch on in Community, it gave a lot of queer people a safe place to do that, to be who they are, to whether they got kicked out, they ran away, because that was a lot of the cases with kids in the 80s in New York, and even before that, a lot of queer people just moved to New York. Also, the house that Pepper LaBeija was mothering was actually around for 20 years in the 90s, so that means that it started in the 70s, which is pretty cool to me. In conclusion, drag should not be banned because it has a deep-rooted history in queer culture, and it's an art form where you can display anything. It provides self-love and community, and as one of the most influential drag queens of our day says, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
Amen.